Hey, I'm Brenna D'Amico, and you're watching the Permanent Rain Press.
Hi everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press. Today I am so happy to be joined by Brenna D'Amico. Hello, hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you for asking. And I'm just so excited to dive into Adjoining with you, exciting short film that you are a part of, but also produced. So we'll get into it, then a little bit of Descendants and some music. But you do star as Millie in Adjoining. How did you become involved with this project, and what excited you about being a part of this story?
Yeah, so I met Peter, who is our writer and producer of Adjoining, and he's incredible. He's an interviewer for Popternative, which is his own company, and I did an interview with him, I think, oh my goodness, 4, 5 or 5 years ago. I don't know where the time goes. For another project I was doing, and we just always kept in contact. And then I did another interview with him for another project, and we've always been real friendly and keeping up with each other on social media. And he brought it to me one day and was like, "I think this would be so fun for you. We're filming in LA. I know you're there right now, and take a look at it and let me know what you think." And I read it, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, what a fun." Horror short. And I was so excited right off the bat. And then he was like, "Do you want to maybe produce it as well?" And I was like, how did you have like tingling senses that I wanted to get into producing? What was that? And I was like, absolutely. So it's been a journey. It's been great.
That's so nice to know that these connections can like last because you mentioned you met him when he interviewed you for Popternative some years ago. But what's always interesting is with a short film, you don't always get the time to flesh out a character. So tell me about Millie and how did you shape her and her lifestyle from the get-go?
Yeah, I think when I was younger, when I started acting, you go to a lot of different acting classes and you work with a lot of different acting coaches and teachers. And you always want to do your best. You always want that time to figure out and journal about them and everything. But what I've realized is because I did have such a short amount of time to prepare Millie, and it's, only 11 minutes, to fit all of that in there, I was like, you know what? I'm going to simplify it for myself and just watch videos of people that have similar that are doing time for similar crimes that she's committed. I read a lot about slam poets, even though that's only a little tiny part of her. And just did my research on that, and I was like, you know what? Instead of stressing about, oh, I got to figure exactly out who she is and what she is and everything like that. I just took the main elements and I was like, you know what, I'm going to trust that I know that and kind of shape her around those things and just trust that, somebody that I worked on for maybe 2 weeks can still be as good as somebody I've worked on for, a month or so, just for what this is, a short film.
I thought you did a great job from what we saw in on screen and in the short. I know with that limited time it can be difficult, especially as an artist. You're like, I want to know everything about her, but sometimes
Sure.
it's good to kind of, leave that up for interpretation. But
Right.
we did really get that influencer vibe from both her and Ben. I just love that business card, the slam poet, good vibes provider. Such a cute career tagline. Never guess what would be coming next, but were there any stories that you might have kind of just thought about in your mind, created yourself, or casually discussed with the creative team about Millie and her backstory?
Yeah, I think because her story and herself is so intertwined with Mr. Benjamin, played by Carter Glade. We it was not as many questions and coming up with little backstories to help me kind of get into knowing her as it was asking questions about them, because they do this together and we wanted to really like romanticize it because, unfortunately, it's a trend on social media to romanticize a lot of criminals and things like that. Um, and I think that's kind of one of the twisted aspects we wanted to also put in this film because it is twisted and it's a horror movie. And but yeah, so it was mainly questions and stories about like when they first did it, when was their first time doing something like this together, how did they come about this in a sense. So it was very Millie and Ben.
For sure. And also, I'm sure questions like how did they even meet in the first place? Because it takes two to kind of, that takes two
Right.
to tango and like
Did
have
one
the
of the
same
people, yeah,
passion.
right. Did one of them propose the idea? Did they both already do it? And were they like, oh my gosh, I found my soulmate kind of thing? Did they meet on the dark web via live stream? It was just a bunch of questions like that.
What's really cool about that is, we won't get into the nitty-gritty, but it also leaves the door open for so much more in this story and what could be expanded. But you mentioned
Right.
Carter Glade, who plays Benjamin. You have been friends for years, so you had that built-in trust and knowledge of each
Mhm.
other. How involved were you with his casting?
I was very involved with it. So when I came on as a producer, I'm still trying to figure out where I fit best, and what my strong suits as a producer are. And I've found the young actors I know and reaching out to them and talking about it is probably my strongest suit right now, and the connections that I have. And I sent them a few people and I was like, I think they'd all be great. Let me know if, you want to see any of them. But I was really pushing for Carter from the beginning. Like I said, I've known him for years. And he's so good at playing that, like, twisted, charming psycho. And I knew off the bat he was my top choice and was very clear about that. And then they saw a little snippet of a tape he did for something else. And they were like, oh yeah, love that. And I was like, okay, good. So then we got him on, and it was just from there, it was so nice because sometimes you don't get the luxury of talking to somebody before intimate scenes or anything like that. So it was just nice that I got to have a friend to do it. It took advantage of it being a short film and being like, you know what, let's have somebody on I already know so we can make it a little quicker and easier for everybody.
What was something new that you learned about Carter by working with him on Adjoining?
Um, I that's a great question. I feel like, which is, I mean, a great thing. I feel like he doesn't change when he gets on set. I feel like he is a very open person. He's very collaborative. And I think the reason he was my number one pick was because I knew him to be that person and wasn't at all like concerned about him changing on set when he got on set. So he was just so open to doing anything and everything and trying different ways, and so ready to go above and beyond if anybody asks. And I think that's one of the aspects I really, love most about him.
And for them, I'm sure like that past relationship, it benefited not only Millie and Ben's dynamics, but also the more intimate moments that they had. Because I know that you mentioned in another interview, but it's meant to be uncomfortable. So there is a lot of kind of like over the top kissing, like making out
Absolutely.
in front of people. So I'm sure that also helped with that comfort level.
It 100% did. Obviously, when I, read all that, I was like, this is a lot of smooching. What's going on? And then I realized it was for that uncomfortable aspect because nobody's real comfortable watching anybody, especially, smooch like that on screen. But it made sense for the story because they're so over the top kind of people and foreshadowing some of the later events.
How would you describe how Millie and Ben complement each other in Adjoining?
Mm. I think they just match each other's freak. Or what's that saying? It's like, what's that? Everybody's singing on TikTok now. Um, oh yeah, I think it's that. Match my freak. That's it. Okay, I was right. Yeah, I think they just match each other's freaks, and I don't think they could have worked if one or the other was a little more subdued. I think they both needed to be kind of over the top people to make the campiness of them work. Um, and yeah, I think that's that.
The short also stars Sid Noelle as Chloe, the motel manager. What can you say about Sid's performance and getting to play with their interactions?
I love that girl. Oh my goodness. She is just the absolute best. Um, and when I first met her, I was like, oh yeah. you are so Chloe. And I think one of my favorite things about her is her eyes. So every time I was just in a scene with her, I was just like, I couldn't stop staring at her eyes. I was like entranced. She's got like the biggest, most beautiful eyes, which also works for the little scene. Um, but yeah, I think because she's so different from me, I think, or Millie, Millie and Chloe's differences really help with the contrast of it all.
It's definitely like something interesting because you think about, the hunter and the hunted and things like that, and how you
Mhm.
pair those together with these different characters. I do have a couple of questions related to the events of Adjoining. So we are discussing some spoilers. I will include in the timestamps below for all those watching and listening when we return to the more general discussion. But I do have to ask about the dark twist in the film, the gory ending. How was that sequence for you to film and get into character for?
It was it was I feel like so as an artist, I'm not a huge fan. And this might change later on with certain roles and certain projects that I do, but I'm not a huge fan of method acting for myself. I feel like I like to make sure I kind of try to keep myself protected. It's also a short film we filmed for 2 days. I don't really think it was needed for that. Other actors might disagree and that might work for them. I'm just talking purely for myself. Um, but I feel like I was only in it for a little bit right before. And then if they called cut and they had notes, I would still kind of be in it, but it's like shutting one ear on and off. Like this ear was like, don't listen to anything, stay in it. And this side was being receptive to what our directors were giving us. So I think there's a healthy balance of putting yourself in it and staying kind of, you know, what's going to happen, what's this is going to happen, and then also being open to conversation in between that is needed.
It's definitely a fine line as an actor, but it was so unexpected that moment. Walking into the room, everything was basically covered in kind of the tarp or the plastic
Right.
at that point. But very bloody. I know that you are a horror movie fan, so that is a departure from
Yeah.
some other work, although you did do Night Night, which is in that same kind of horror thriller vein. But were you surprised with the amount of blood that they brought in?
I definitely was. I also as as a producer, as an actor, also as a human, I was just like worried. I was like I wasn't making sure everybody's okay. I wanted to make sure like, Sid was fine and Carter was also slitting her throat in the scene. So we were very careful and making sure that everybody was okay and we rehearsed a lot before the blood actually came into play because I was wearing a white tank top and that's the only one I had short film things. We didn't have like a second, white tank top. So we rehearsed a lot and made sure to get all the shots we wanted to before bringing the blood in, but it was definitely I will say the blood looked great, the consistency lovely, but it was made with dish soap and another substance, and I can only think of dish soap because it was in my eyes, and I was literally, I loved it though because I wanted Millie to kind of like cry, but like not cry like sad, just so many emotions flooding through that when she's getting the blood splattered on her. It's just an emotional big performance. So definitely having the soap in my eye helped them water. But it was quite the experience and I was finding little pieces everywhere for a couple days after that in my hair and everything.
Definitely that manic kind of laughter expression, but I'm sorry to hear the dish soap was stinging your eyes. But hey, it made
It was worth
for
it.
good on screen. I know you also did some research on kind of voyeurism and the dark web, so I feel like that would have really helped you kind of, for lack
Yeah.
of better words, though, like understand this character.
Right. And I feel like because Millie and Ben are so over the top and like campy influencer people. Not that all influencers are campy. I'm not saying that. Just Millie and Ben. But it was important for because the dark web. Everybody knows the dark web is a disgusting, vile, very scary, twisted place. So having them be so over the top was kind of, I think the way it ran with each other was great because it would have been very different horror short if we also played it very dark and cold and sinister, instead of letting these twisted people find the joy in what they do.
So just to confirm, are we to believe that Millie is actually a semi-successful traveling slam poet, but they use that as a front for the Milliman's horror poetry performances? Like she actually
Yeah.
does travel and do some kind of slam poetry?
Yeah, I think so. I think in my head is that they're on this little mini tour and it might be super small, but they're still on it because I think they're also actual influencers as well. And they may be real in their victims that way. And it's sounding like they pick people that maybe do some things wrong, or I'm at least hoping they do and don't just pick, completely innocent and happy-go-lucky people, but maybe a heckler at one of their shows, they start to target them and, things like that. So I definitely think it's a cover up and also a little ploy to get people back in the room with them so they can have their fun.
It's interesting when you think about that kind of reverse justice kind of scenario and having
Mhm.
that play in. But there was such a fantastic, short film, and Ben does tell Chloe that she's on a national tour, so it kind of opens that door to like, are they actually serial killers?
Right, right, right. And also, are they actually on a national tour or on they like a way smaller one and they just like want to seem impressive because there are also people that want to be, liked and to seem impressive to people as well, which is an interesting little trait of theirs.
Yeah, giving out the business card to some
Mhm.
place that you're staying as well. But we'll t get away from the spoilers now, move back to the general discussion about the creative team and the sets, because sets and set decoration, they add so much to a project. So how did this motel room, this environment affect and inform your performance?
Oh my goodness, so much. We had such a great team behind us, and all the women did so, so, so well, and such a good job at making us feel like, oh, we're in this, by our environment. And it was uh it was way easier to just kind of close your eyes and then open them, and then you're in those rooms. But I think it's really important. They did a fantastic job.
Was the motel room created on like a studio or a sound stage, or was it in a okay.
Yeah, so we worked at a sound stage, and they had just a bunch of these rooms, and they just picked one that had a bed in it and just went crazy and did their magic.
You're also a producer, as we mentioned, and you said that you really found your kind of niche in the casting process. But how did it like challenge you? Were there other specific aspects you found yourself drawn towards behind the camera?
Yeah, I really liked that. I also found our amazing makeup and hair and special effects person, Rachel. She's amazing. I've worked with her for years now. But being able to have the control of trying to make sure we were hiring good quality people, that would, come into work and just try their best and to make everybody's days easier because we're all trying to get through the same day was very important to me. So having that opportunity to do so is very important to me and something that I really loved. And then also people coming up to me on set and feeling free to ask me questions and, actually knowing the answers was very cool, to help them out too. So I just really liked being a part of everything and, not only the story as an actor, but being able to be a part of certain decisions and yeah, it was just a very different and cool feeling.
It's always nice to have that input and at least a bit of that kind of creative control because it feels like, you're doing something important and your voice matters. You
Right.
worked with your co-directors, Harrison Hood and Dakota Dalby of Vesperia Films. Tell me about collaborating with them and their creative vision and direction.
Yeah, they're great. They're just a fun bunch and they're both very, very talented and we had a great dynamic. I feel like they're both very strong people and even if me, Pete, or them, if even if we disagreed upon something, it would always be an open discussion. It would always be like, let's see how we can compromise on this. Because at the end of the day, nobody's gonna wholeheartedly agree on every little thing. I think that's also in life. But the way they handled everything, I think was, it was just great. It was an easy process to love being a part of.
And they are both from Vancouver, which is a city close to your heart and your career we'll
Um,
talk about in just a bit. But producing wise, you also had Peter Remoliotis and Jan Sikora on the team. Peter also being, like you said, a co-writer. A
yeah.
fantastic team who put this film together. What are some of your favorite memories from working with this group?
I think, oh my goodness. There was, okay, I want to try to describe this. There was a moment between me and Dakota when we were in the middle of filming one of the really bloody scenes. And because, like I discussed before, how I kind of shut one ear off and one ear on, I remember very faintly what was said, but I remember in the moment feeling like, oh, this director really sees me and he really hears me and he cares about his actors and he cares about what they're going through and he's really on our side. And I just remember feeling that moment very like like I could breathe and I wasn't stressed at all on this set rarely, and it was just so nice that we could all just go to each other and be like, hey, what do we think about this, what do we think about that? And it was always a 10-minute conversation, or if somebody wanted it to be, it would be an hour if that's what that person needed. um Pete's the best. Anytime he walks into a room, you just want to smile. You can't help it. Harrison had the best outfits on set for the 2 days, best dressed for sure. And Jan was just the sweetest and really handled the nitty-gritty stuff of, if we needed something, immediately dropping everything to do that for us and handling so many behind the scenes aspect as well. So it was overall just such a fun time.
It's so nice when everyone is so, committed to like the cause and they want this to turn out well. Adjoining screened at Chicago Horror Film Festival last month. You were there, I believe,
Yeah.
for that, and it's on the program for Screamfest this Saturday, as well as Vancouver Horror Show Film Festival later in October. So, how excited are you for audiences to get to see the work that you all put in?
I'm so excited. I feel so grateful and really, really happy that it's just getting into so many great film festivals. And when people watch this, I just want them to be open to being entertained for 11 minutes and having fun with us and be ready for some things you might not expect.
It's always like the audience reaction that I'm sure it happens after you kind of finish it and when it starts getting accepted into these festivals when you're
Yeah.
like, people are going to see it. And how was the response in Chicago?
Oh, the response in Chicago was great. It was everybody seemed to really like it. I talked to a couple people after and they loved the twist and they loved the tone of it. So it made me really happy. And my family saw it too. And I had to close both my parents' eyes at certain points. But but they loved it as well and thought it was super fun.
It's probably just like that alarming bit where they're like, "Oh my goodness, like I was not
Like, I
expecting
don't want to
that,"
see
but
my daughter doing this. Stop.
for the art, for the art. We'll move into Descendants now, where you starred as Jane in the franchise. Can you summarize what these movies have given you, not only in your career and the opportunities, but also the people and experiences that you carry with you?
I mean, I'm forever grateful to Disney Channel and they just gave me the best childhood of my life. And meeting so many amazing people. It just still feels so surreal and I don't even know how to describe it. It's like it's a dream. It's a dream come true and it still is.
Next year, it will be 10 years since the first movie was
Ooh,
released. Do you have any reunions planned, anything like that?
goodness. That time has been messing with my brain. 10 years. My goodness. Um, I don't know. I mean, I would love to have one. That's actually a great idea. Let me hop in a group chat and like start planning that. I don't think we do, but I think that'd be so fun. and so special if we did that. That'd be great. So thank you for the idea.
I feel like there's still time to plan something,
Oh,
put
for
something
sure.
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about Vancouver, a special place for you. What do you miss about the city, and have you been back since you filmed Descendants 3?
Regretfully, I have not been back, and it's so funny because Vancouver is one of my favorite places I've ever been to in the world. And I'm gonna go back, I think next summer because I really want to go back next summer because it doesn't get dark till like 10 p.m. there in the summer, which is incredible. And oh, it's going to be filled with a lot of different emotions going back, but um I think one of my favorite things about it is like staying there. We were so close to the water. I think my most favorite thing was the people there. And just being able to wake up every day doing what I love, which is also a crazy thing. And just be like, oh, it's going to be a great day today. Just knowing that I was going to have a great day every single day was great. I loved that.
To this day, you still connect with fans at conventions in person and virtually. To know the impact this franchise continues to have and that dedicated fan support, what has that meant to you?
It's been everything. We wouldn't be anything without the people that love us whatsoever. And so when anybody asks, if they stop me, and they see me on the street, or if they ask for something over social media, or I try my best to keep up with them on social media as best as I can. It's like a no-brainer. It's like, of course, like we owe everything to them in a way. And it means a lot to me, and I love them very, very much.
What's really cool is that these conventions lately, it's not just Descendants, but it's kind of the Kenny Ortega
Yeah.
multiverse where you've also gotten to interact with people from Julie and the Phantoms and High School Musical. So how has that been for you?
Oh, I have such a sweet story actually that I don't think I've told. So, oh my God, was it 2 years ago? Yeah. Three? Oh my gosh, it was almost 3 years ago. Almost 3 years ago, we were in Paris. It was me, the Julie and the Phantoms cast, and the High School Musical cast with Kenny at DreamCon convention. Or Dream It, yeah, DreamCon, Dream It convention. And it was very so surreal. It was amazing meeting, the Julie and the Phantoms cast. They're all incredible people. But for me, meeting the High School Musical cast, little Brenna was freaking out. I was Gabriella or Sharpay for Halloween, probably both at one point or another. And so we were all sitting in the green room waiting to go to our next event or whatever. It was me, Lucas, Grable, and Corbin Blue, and I believe Bart Johnson was also there. Love Bart. And I was sitting with them and I was getting a little emotional and I was like, "Oh, sorry, you guys were my childhood. It's just crazy that we're talking, singing songs on guitar." And then they started getting emotional and they were like, and I was like, "You were my childhood." And they started getting emotional and saying, "And now you're everyone else's." And I was like, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. Oh, it's so crazy, and it's such a sweet moment that I will really never forget.
Just hearing that story has me like
Oh, it gets
that's such a
me.
sweet moment to share with them, and I hope that you continue to get to reunite with some of these actors. Hopefully you can call some of them friends now as well, and
Absolutely.
you have some great fans. I was on Instagram. There's an account that's been posting about you following your career for years now. It's I think on Instagram at Waste Brenna or
Cal,
so.
yes, her name's Cal. Yeah,
It's
she's
is it
great.
crazy to like open your Instagram and see yourself tagged in something new, like a new edit, like videos, things
It's
like that?
it's definitely still like I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. But I'm so grateful, and they've just been nothing but kind and supportive to me, and I love Cal so much. And if I just hope she knows that I'm forever grateful for her support and everything that she makes for me, because I love watching them.
You did attend the premiere of Descendants, The Rise of Red. How nostalgic was that evening for you to be in that environment, meeting the new cast, but also reuniting with some familiar faces?
It was such a magical night. I felt like I was, 13 again or 14 again at the first premiere. And it was so exciting, like, meeting all of them. I knew some prior, um, and just watching them and their new story and their new chapter unfold. It was so nostalgic and also such an exciting feeling for them. And then also seeing Jedediah and Jada and Sarah and everybody that was there was great too.
I think you had seen Sarah kind of recently with at the Camp for a Cause Gala, but I'm not sure. Had you not seen like Jedediah or even Anna Cathcart for a while? I think
Yes.
Jada was at some of the conventions that you've done as well.
Yes, she was. So I saw Jada, I've seen Sarah a couple times. I've not seen Anna and Jed in like, oh my goodness, maybe since the last movie or maybe at a premiere or two after. And so it was great seeing them. And whenever I have a lot of funny videos of Jedediah on my phone. So whenever they pop up for me, I always just send them to him because he's maybe one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. And then being able to catch up with Anna was really sweet too. So
Had you known Joshua Colley prior?
yeah, I have. I don't know where we met. Oh gosh, I have the worst memory. I think I knew where we met maybe a month ago, now I forget. But he's so utterly talented and so kind, and he just blows me away. He's amazing.
You two filmed Flight House content together,
Mhm.
and it's been kind of trickling out, and it's just so funny watching you react to his impressions. And you were so confident in that Stitch one. It turned out to be Elmo, but you got there because Stitch was like the next one.
Yeah, it was so fun, and there's many more to come, and his impressions are way better than mine, so maybe only watch his.
No, I'm definitely excited to see your impressions as well. But we did see Uma and the fairy godmother, of course, Jane's mother, in these movies return for the Rise of Red. Would you be open to returning as Jane if there is a fifth installment, or are you content and happy with your work and the story of the first three?
I think a little bit of both. I think it's really 50-50 for me. I think it would be so fun to see where Jane's at now and how she would fit into their stories now. But I'm also so happy with how it ended. And it's really hard to say. It definitely is a 50-50. It could go either way and I'd be just as happy.
Maybe it's one of those things where they approach you with a script and you kind of decide on the spot. But I
Sure.
have to say, one of my favorite scenes in the movies were when Carlos asked Jane to cotillion.
Oh,
They were just so cute and wholesome. Do you have
mhm.
like a favorite scene or a favorite song and dance number off the top of your head from the first three movies?
I think my favorite dance number right away is You and Me when we're dancing in the water at the end of the second
That
movie.
one is my favorite as well.
I cry my eyes out every time I watch it or hear that song. It was amazing. We filmed for I think 3 days that dance number. Um, it was the most fun ever. Oh my gosh, it was so fun. We were dancing like 3 inches of water. It was great. I loved it. Favorite scene? Ooh. One of my most fun scenes to film was spraying, Mitchell in the face with enchanted lake water when he was Beast. And being reunited with Carlos and everything like that. I think that was a really fun scene. It was a really fun day.
Must be just so nostalgic, like hearing the music and seeing
Oh, it
anything.
is.
But there's always so many stories to tell at these conventions, I'm sure, as well, that you're unearthing at each and every time. I wanted to talk about the Cameron Boyce Foundation, which is close to your heart. Tell me about the work they're currently doing and how important it is for you to stay involved, advocate for epilepsy, and also just carry on Cameron's legacy.
Absolutely. I think all the work that the Cameron Boyce Foundation has done is so important, and he would be so overjoyed with everything they've accomplished so far. And it's so important that his legacy lives on in this helpful way. So if you know somebody with epilepsy, have it, or just want to be educated about it, please visit the Cameron Boyce Foundation, and learn more.
And you also raised money as well. You were raising some money for your birthday, which was just at the end of September. So happy
Right.
belated birthday.
Thank you.
You were at the third annual Camp for a Cause Gala in June. How special are these evenings? as both a fundraiser, but also celebration of his life because you get to reunite with some co-stars and his wonderful family as well.
Yeah, it's so special for all of us, and being able to be reunited with this family at the same time as our friends all together. I think it's an important night for not only him but for all of us as well. And they will always be so special to my heart, and they're so important because we raise so much, and to all the people that come out to the galas and the events, thank you so much for coming. It's truly so important, and we're very grateful.
And they're doing such great work not only for epilepsy awareness and advocating for it, but I know there were some other causes important to Cameron, like reducing gun violence, access to clean water, making the arts accessible for young people. So those are all kind of causes that this money is going towards. So we'll post the foundation's link below for people to check out resources and learn how to get involved. Now, you are a musician as well. You sing, you play guitar, play piano. Are you working on new original music?
I am currently working on new original music. So I have it's hard. It's a hard thing because you create a song and then, it gets finished. You're like, I want to change this, I want to change that because we're our worst critics. So I'm working on right now just trying to get something out and be like, Brenna, you need to just put something out and just go from there. And then you can tweak other songs and whatnot and whatnot. So hopefully soon I'll be able to release something.
Tell me about what inspires you as a songwriter and how would you describe the current sound you're shaping as an artist?
Oh, that's great. I think where I want to go with my current sound is I love Brandy Carlisle. She's one of my favorite artists of all time. I love Whitesnake. I love old dad rock. I love singer-songwriter. So I think I want to find a balance between some soft rock and singer-songwriter genres, which is definitely going to be an interesting thing. But yeah, kind of somewhere in there. I don't really know how to describe it. Hopefully I'll find my sound soon.
And what inspires you on the writing side?
Mm. I'm not the best writer, so I love to surround myself with people that are. I'm not the best person at articulating what I'm thinking, if you couldn't tell this whole time. Just kidding. But yeah, I think what I love writing about most is love and heartbreak, which I know is maybe everyone's. But I really want to lean more into writing about, just certain life situations that maybe don't have to do with love or heartbreak. But at the end of the day, I guess everything does a little bit.
I know that you have been posting some teasers on social media. Swallow You Up, is that one that's kind of in the works?
Oh, yeah, I wrote that. I wrote that one really quickly for my boyfriend, and he really liked it. And so that's a great I see, this is what I do. I write little snippets and then I forget and don't finish it, but I actually remember really liking that one. Yeah, I do like that one. So that one might be a contender.
And it has the seal of approval for from your boyfriend, so that's
Yes, it
perfect.
does.
Do you have any other upcoming projects that you could share? And I know that you've been producing a couple of new things as well.
Yeah, I can't share too much. I have a couple films that I'm working on right now. I just got attached to this journey story about a daughter and father relationship, and then I'm doing another one and producing and starring in another one called Ghost Complex, which is also an indie film. And that's I don't know if I can reveal that one. It's It's a tragically beautiful movie. I will just say that. So exciting things to come.
I can't wait and looking forward to seeing what's up next for you. I'm glad to see you're keeping busy and hopefully the music is coming as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for everything today.
Of course, I have our signature question to end things off. If you could be any ice cream flavor, which would you be and why?
I would say butter pecan because it's my favorite and because it's sweet and a little salty. And I feel connected to that.
Perfect answer. Thank you so much, Brenna. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
For all those watching, make sure to catch Brenna in the short film Adjoining, which is currently on a film festival run. You can follow Popternative Pictures on Instagram to stay tuned with screenings and its release, and we will see you next time.
Thanks so much.